Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. We're at the midpoint of 2024 and I'm doing a series of videos where I pretty much cover all my best cheap fragrance pickups of 2024. About 2 weeks ago I did a video where I covered my best pickups when it comes to the fragrance houses of Lattafa, Afnan and some other ones. And in this video today I'm going to do part 2 of that series of videos, and today I'm going to cover the brands of Al Haramain, Zimaya, Grandeur, Maison Alhambra and Fragrance World. I'm going to cover a total of 28 fragrances. I'll start with the brand of Fragrance World and some of their sub-brands. They have a few sub-brands like FA Paris, French Avenue Paris and Athoor Al-Alam. And because what seems the new reality that we live in some of the cases I'm not going to show you the full bottles because they are pretty similar to the original fragrances that they have been inspired by. And I just want to protect, my channel and my content, my work. So I'm going to start with Fragrance World, and the first two scents that I'm going to quickly show you, I just did reviews of those actually yesterday, and they come from the FA line of Paris, FA Paris line of fragrances, and they're called Royal Blend and Royal Blend Nero. Royal Blend is a really nicely, heavily inspired fragrance by Kilian's Angel Share, and to this day this is probably the best inspiration of Angel Share that I've come across. Comes very nicely packaged, very luxuriously, has very nice quality, has superb performance, and it's super close to Angel Share. On the other hand, Royal Blend Nero is a fragrance that's inspired by Sava from Giza, or if you're not familiar with that original scent, then you're probably familiar with Lattafa Hamra. This seems very close to Hamra, although this is a little bit sweeter take on the original DNA. Sweet, spicy, has a very festive mood, a beast mode of a performer, beast mode of a projector. Both of them actually are very unisex scents, great for cold weather, and all around have fantastic quality and pretty decent prices. The next two scents that I'm going to show come from Fragrance World themselves. The first one is called Invicto Victory Elixir, and probably as you can tell by the name, this is a very nicely inspired fragrance by the original scent that's called Paco Rabanne's Invictus Victory Elixir. Very nicely done, has very nice performance, very modern sweet scent profile that's very likable and brings a lot of compliments. And then on the other hand I have a fragrance that's called Harmony Coat Absolu, and this one has been inspired by Armani's Coat Absolu, one of the best fragrances from the Coat line that unfortunately has been discontinued. And Harmony Coat Absolu is actually very nice inspiration of that original fragrance. Will get you very close to the original scent. Again, has a very good performance, a very interesting scent profile that brings a lot of compliments, and is a great date night scent in my opinion. Both of them have a very reasonable price and all around are great options if you're looking for fragrances that are heavily inspired by their original counterparts. The next two that I'm going to quickly talk about again come from French Avenue. The first one is called The Shadow, and it's part of the niche line of French Avenue. And this one is a fragrance that's been very heavily inspired by Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. You get that very Middle Eastern style of perfumery with lots of agar oud, lots of rose, lots of amber, leather, a hint of raspberry, quite a lot of incense as well. Very similar to the original fragrance. Feels a little bit heavier on the agar oud note, but other than that feels very close to the original scent. A very dressed up, very masculine fragrance with superb performance, pretty much a beast mode of a performer. Comes very nicely packaged. It's a little bit more expensive than your usual fragrance, your usual inspired by fragrance, but I think it's a really good choice if you're looking for something that will get you close to Ombre Nomade. On the other hand, I have again a fragrance from French Avenue that's called After Effect, and this one has been very heavily inspired by Initio's Side Effect. Very similar to the original fragrance, boozy, sweet, tobacco-based fragrance with lots of spices, a rum note, very long-lasting, very nice fragrance for the colder months of the year. A very mysterious type of scent with fantastic performance, fantastic projection, very high quality of the scent profile. The next few that I'm going to show you will come from another Fragrance World sub-brand that's called Athoor Al-Alam, and the first one is called Al-Fakir. This one has been pretty heavily inspired by Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé. You get a very similar scent profile to the original fragrance, a very warm, sweet scent that has a bit of powderness from an iris note. You have a bit of sort of sweetness and warmth from a chestnut note, a hint of an boozy note in here as well. Very interesting, very masculine, warm scent that's great for the colder months of the year, especially at night time. On the other hand, I have a total opposite scent profile, again from Athoor Al-Alam, that's called Kayet. This one is a freshie, a really interesting unisex freshie in my opinion. It doesn't feel like it's been heavily inspired by one original fragrance. It's more like a mix of a few different DNAs. It carries a bit of Invictus DNA, a bit of Millésime Imperial from Crete as well. It's fruity, sweet, bubblegummy, at the same time quite fresh and aquatic. A really nice freshie, cheap and expensive freshie for the summer months. And the next two Athoor Al-Alam scents that I'm going to quickly show you. On one hand I have Zacariat Lux. This one I think it's not really heavily inspired by something, it rather incorporates a few different DNAs. On one hand, this smells somewhat similar to what you get from Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille. You get that vanillic tobacco based fragrance with quite a lot of sweetness and some spiciness, and then on the other hand you have a very interesting and good quality coffee note that just adds a nice twist to this one and makes it really interesting and unique. Performance is good, projection is good, it's perfectly unisex fragrance that I've been really enjoying lately. And then on the other hand I have Anaqeed, which is been heavily inspired by Parfums de Marly's Layton exclusive. You get the Layton DNA that's darkened up a little bit like you get with the original fragrance, although this feels even darker, especially in the opening, than the Layton exclusive flanker from Parfums de Marly's. Other than that, carrying that very similar, you know, Layton DNA with some fruity sweetness, vanillic sweetness, some spiciness and woodiness, but this just feels darker and even darker than the original fragrance. Performance here is slightly above average, not as impressive when it comes to performance, but still a very nice scent. The next two, again coming from Fragrance World. On one hand I have Jacques Yves Infinity, which is inspired by a Louis Vuitton fragrance, a fresh Louis Vuitton fragrance. You get a very nice freshy type of scent profile with a strong ginger note, some muskiness, some woodiness, some spiciness. A really good choice for the the warmer months of the year, with above average performance, low price tag and good quality of the scent profile. An interesting masculine freshie. And then on the other hand I have the Jack of Clubs. This one has been heavily inspired by YSL La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric. Pretty similar to the original fragrance, although this feels a little bit more citrusy fresh compared to the ginger freshness that you get out of the original scent. But other than that, pretty close, a little bit sweeter on the dry down, more ambery sweetness, but performance here is very good quality of the scent profile, projects better than the original fragrance, comes really uniquely and nicely packaged. You get a unique looking bottle, and all around this is a really good fragrance from the brand of Fragrance World. The next two, again from Fragrance World, both come from the same line that's called Posh, and both are actually heavily inspired by two great discontinued designer fragrances. On one hand I have Posh Mode, which has been heavily inspired by Thierry Mugler's Amen Pure Mode. Very good alternative to the original fragrance. You get that dark, boozy scent profile that has a nice amount of fruity sweetness, really nice, interesting masculine scent, quite unique scent, and it's been really well recreated when it comes to Posh Mode. And then on the other hand I have the Posh Omega. This one is heavily inspired by Le Mot Essence de Parfum from Jean Paul Gaultier, another great designer fragrance that unfortunately has been discontinued. This one relies on a nice amount of vanillic sweetness, nice amount of cardamom spiciness, a very masculine, very sexy scent profile that has a nice amount of leather on the dry down as well. Very sexy with very decent performance all around. Both fragrances from the Posh line are actually very good. And the last two Fragrance World scents that I'm going to talk about in this video today. The first one is called Vanilla So Sweet. This one has been inspired by a Guerlain fragrance. It's a fragrance that heavily relies on the vanilla scent. the vanilla note, very sweet, very unisex scent that somewhat, at least to my nose, is somewhat reminiscent to something like Mercedes-Benz Club Black as well, if you're familiar with that scent. Very sweet, sexy vanilla fragrance that's perfectly unisex and has a very decent performance. And then on the other hand, I have the Spectre Ghost from French Avenue, again FA Paris. This one has been inspired, another vanilla based fragrance, in this case inspired by Nishane Ani. You get again a very vanillic based fragrance that has quite a lot of citrusy freshness in the opening, and all around very close to the original fragrance, a very good inspiration of the original fragrance with very decent performance and unique looking bottle. Okay, so we're done with the fragrance world scents that I'm going to show you in this video today. Now I'm going to move on to Maison Alhambra, and I'm going to talk about my best Maison Alhambra pickups of 2024. First of all, I have on one hand I have Maison Alhambra Cassius, which is a fragrance that's been heavily inspired by Parfum de Marly's Carlisle. Very similar to the original fragrance, especially on the dry down. The opening is slightly different, slightly harsher, but it's a pretty good, pretty decent alternative to Carlisle for a fraction of the price. Sweet, spicy, tobacco-based fragrance that has a lot of woodiness, feels very masculine, and I absolutely love the original, and I absolutely love Cassius from Maison Alhambra. On the other hand, I have Exclusive Tobacco, again from Maison Alhambra, and this one has been inspired by Carolina Herrera's Mystery Tobacco. Another tobacco-based fragrance, although here the tobacco is pretty much the main player. You get some spices, you get some sweetness as well, vanillic sweetness, but it's all about the tobacco. And it's one of my most favorite tobacco-based fragrances. Really nicely done, very long-lasting, very good quality of the scent, a little bit more expensive than some of the other Maison Alhambra fragrances, but it's worth it because this is a fantastic offering from Maison Alhambra. The next two Maison Alhambra fragrances that I'm going to show you. In one hand I have Glacier Wood Ultra, which draws its inspiration from Jean Paul Gaultier's Ultra Mole. A very good alternative to Ultra Mole. You get that very sexy, very sweet, pure based fragrance in the opening with lots of vanilla, lots of mint, very playful, very sexy fragrance that gets a lot of compliments. Scent wise pretty close to the original scent, and also has a very nice performance. And then on the other hand I have Signatures number 2, which to my nose is like a more masculine take on the Mancera's Red Tobacco DNA. It's dark, it's leathery, it's slightly sweet, tobacco based fragrance with fantastic performance and fantastic projection. As I said, a more masculine take on the Mancera's Red Tobacco DNA. And the last two fragrances from Maison Alhambra that I'm going to show in this video today. Salvo Intense, which draws its inspiration from none other than Dior Sauvage EDP, a very nice alternative to Dior Sauvage EDP with a very good quality, especially considering how cheap of a fragrance this one is. It has a surprisingly good performance, surprisingly nice scent profile, very decently close to the original fragrance for a fraction of the price. And then on the other hand I have the Zafiro Collection Crafted Oud, which draws its inspiration from Tamim's Carved Oud. It's a wood-based fragrance that relies heavily on the agar oud note, but it's done in a very nice, very designer way. It has quite a lot of ambery sweetness, some added spiciness as well. Very sexy, very masculine, very dark scent that is dressed up and has very good performance, comes nicely packaged. The only thing about this one is that it's a little bit more of an intimate type of scent. It doesn't project very loudly, but you know, performance wise or longevity wise it's pretty decent. Now let's move on to the house of Grandeur. I've bought a total of 2 scents from Grandeur this year, and both of them actually turned out to be very nice. On one hand I have Sincerity per Homme, and this one draws its inspiration from Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé. Again, like one of the fragrance world scents that I showed you earlier, very decent alternative to Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé. Pretty similar to the original fragrance, although this feels a little bit more powdery. It feels as if it has a little bit more of a tonka bean note in it, but other than that quite close with pretty decent performance and very low price tag. And then on the other hand I have Iconic Nuit per Homme. This one draws its inspiration again from YSL La Nuit de L'Homme Bleu Electric, and probably this is the closest scent you know, that I've come across when it comes to inspirations from any brand. Really close to the original fragrance, has a very nice fresh ginger note in the opening, very similar on the dry down to the original. It has a magnetic cap, you know, all around a very interesting scent. Lacks a bit of the performance, but it has a pretty low price tag and very nice scent profile, and because of that low price tag you can freely overspray this one as much as you want. Next I'm going to show you two scents from the house of Zimaya, which for those who don't know is a sub-brand of Athoor. On one hand I have Royal Paragon, which is a fragrance that draws its inspiration from Parfum de Marlis Layton and Layton exclusive. I've always thought of this fragrance as being somewhere split in the middle between the OG Layton and the Layton exclusive flanker. You get that fruity sweetness, vanillic sweetness, spiciness, woodiness, a bit of green notes, but then I feel it's a little bit darker compared to the OG Layton. Performance is above average, nothing spectacular, but has a very low price tag, and I've been really enjoying Royal Paragon from Zimaya. And then on the other hand I have Wujood, again from the house of Zimaya. This one draws its inspiration from Rosendo Mateus number 5. You get that sweet, sexy scent profile with lots of vanilla, lots of suede leather, lots of incense as well. Very interesting and unique scent. I've really been enjoying the original fragrance, and I've really enjoyed Wujood as well. This also feels somewhat similar to YSL Baby Cat as well. Very low price tag and very good performance, and a perfectly unisex scent. And the last two fragrances that I'm going to show you today will be from the house of Alhambra. On one hand I have Aslan Oud Blue Edition, and this is the highest quality inspiration of Dior Sauvage elixir that I've come across. Has great presentation, a very nice and strong magnetic cap, superb performance, very similar to the original fragrance. Feels slightly less spicy in the opening, but other than that super close to the original scent. Very strong performer, a little bit more pricey, but again it has fantastic quality. And then on the other hand I have Alhambra Junon Oud. This one draws its inspiration from Sospiro's Vibrato, but also feels quite similar to something like Bulgari's Tiger. You get that very citrusy, very fresh scent profile that relies on a lot of ouds, a lot of muskiness, a lot of spiciness as well, although this one is a little bit darker than Tiger and feels closer to Sospiro. A very masculine, fresh scent that just works all year round, has fantastic masculine feel to it, and has fantastic performance for the fresh scent profile that it actually carries, and great quality like any other Alhambra scent. And so guys, in today's video I tried to quickly show you 28 of my best cheap fragrance pickups of 2024 so far. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.